Hello everybody, and welcome to day 99 of the 100 Days of Narration Challenge. And I did promise I was going to record the 99th day on the plane, which I did try, but then when I played it back, it was nothing but really quiet whispering. No one could hear a thing. Well, I couldn't hear a thing what I was saying. It was just a bunch of... I was whispering because I was on the plane, and everybody was trying to sleep because trying to adjust to the new Los Angeles timeline? Los Angeles time zone, sorry. Oh wow, I can't believe it. I am here. I am here in Los Angeles. This is crazy. I'm in Little Tokyo at the moment, just waiting for my room to be prepared. Unfortunately, I've come into the country very early. So, it's actually, what time is it right now? It is... 8:45, and yeah, nothing. Most of the time, check-in is around 2 or 3 o'clock, so I'm here about 6 hours early with time to kill, and I don't know what I'm yeah, what the hell am I doing here? What am I gonna do? I don't have anything because I want to get a micro SIM card. Okay, here I am going to discuss my problems about wandering around Los Angeles. First of all, Los Angeles is huge, so going around on foot is probably not an ideal situation, and it's even worse if I don't have a map, and I don't have a map because I don't have a micro SIM card for my iPad, which I can use to access Google Maps and then travel around that way in real time. It's a little bit frightening and scary at the moment because I don't know anybody here. Well, I know people here, but everybody's busy at the moment, so I'm just I'm stuck here by myself, and there's nobody to help me, and I'm kind of freaking out a little bit here. But in the meantime, I'm staying at the Miyako Hotel, Los Angeles, which is right in the heart of downtown, near to Japantown, is that what it's called? And I'm in Little Tokyo at the moment. It's very quiet because none of the shops are open yet. And they won't be open for another 2 hours. I wasn't expecting that. I thought places would be open around 9 o'clock. There is one place open. It's the Yamazaki Bread and Cake place. But, yeah. Anyway, I'm going on too much about my trip right now. I'll do that as a separate thing, I think. What you want to hear from me for the 99th day of the 100 Days Narration Challenge is the Call of Cthulhu. That's what I'm going to do. Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft. I thought I'd do this because I did part of the first chapter a while ago. I can't remember how long it was, but it was quite a bit of time ago. So now let's go. Let's look at chapter 2. Chapter 2. Well, I'll flip the pages for you, but I've already opened it to chapter 2 and started from there. And then we'll see what we do with this. And then this might be the last thing you hear from me, because then I'll get lost, and then I'll get run over by muggers who are with Tommy guns or something. I don't know. I don't know how America works. Anyway, The Call of Cthulhu, 8 by H.P. Lovecraft, Chapter 2, The Tale of Inspector Legrasse. The older matters, which had made the sculptor's dream and bas-reliefs so significant to my uncle, formed the subject of the second half of his long manuscript. Once before, it appears, Professor Angle had seen the hellish outlines of the nameless monstrosity, puzzled over the unknown hieroglyphics, and heard the ominous symbols which can be rendered only as Cthulhu. And all this in so stirring and horrible a connection that it is small wonder he pursued young Wilcox with queries and demands for data. This early experience had come in 1908, 17 years before, when the American Archaeological Society held its annual meeting in St. Louis. Professor Angle, as befit... I don't know if it's Angel or Angle. I'm going to keep saying Angle because it just seemed... Because saying Angel seems a little bit on point, because he's dead, so now he's an angel. Maybe I should pronounce it as an angel. Professor Angle, as befitted one of his authority and attainments, had a prominent part in all the deliberations, and was one of the first to be approached by several outsiders who took advantage of the convocation to offer questions for correct answering and problems for expert solutions. Convocation. That's a word I'm not familiar with. I think that's how you're supposed to say it, but I could be wrong. The chief of these outsiders, and in a short time the focus of interest for the entire meeting, was a commonplace-looking middle-aged man who had traveled all the way from New Orleans for certain special information unobtainable from any local source. His name was John Raymond Legrasse, and he was by profession an inspector of police. With him he bore the object of his visit, a grotesque, repulsive, and apparently very ancient stone statuette whose origin he was at a loss to determine. It must not be fancied that Inspector Legrasse had the least interest in archaeology. On the contrary, his wish for enlightenment was prompted by purely professional considerations. The statuette, idol, fetish, or whatever it was, had been captured some months before in the wooded swamps south of New Orleans during a raid on a supposed voodoo meeting, and so singular and hideous. Sorry, that's a bus going past, I think, or I don't know what that was. And so I don't recognize a lot of sounds. That's really, really weird to me. I mean, it's like the cars and the buses and everything just sound. The traffic just sounds different here. The light is different. Everything is just slightly different from Australia and New Zealand and other places I've been to. So it's I'm having a bit of a culture shock, to be honest. So bit freaking out. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, Barcelona. The statuette, idol, fetish, or whatever it was, had been captured some months before in the wooded swamps south of New Orleans during a raid on a supposed voodoo meeting, and so singular and hideous were the rites connected with it, that the police could not but realize that they had stumbled on a dark cult totally unknown to them, and infinitely more diabolic than even the blackest of the African voodoo circles. I thought voodoo was... No. I mean, voodoo had its origins in New Orleans, but it's like... No, I don't know enough about the subject to go on about that, but it just, it smacks of poor research. Then again, maybe it's good research for its time. Anyway, of its origin, apart from the erratic and unbelievable tales extorted from the captured members, absolutely nothing was to be discovered. Hence the anxiety of the police for any antiquarian lore which might help them to place the frightful symbol, and through it track down the cult to its fountainhead. Inspector Legrasse was scarcely prepared for the sensation which his offering created. One sight of the thing had been enough to throw the assembled men of science into a state of tense excitement, and they lost no time in crowding around him to gaze at the diminutive figure whose utter strangeness and air of genuinely abysmal antiquity hinted so potently at unopened and archaic vistas. No recognized school of sculpture had animated this terrible object, yet centuries and even thousands of years seemed recorded in its dim and green... No recognized school of sculpture had animated this terrible object, yet centuries and even thousands of years seemed recorded in its dim and greenish surface of unplaceable stone. The figure, which was finally passed slowly from man to man for close and careful study, was between 7 and 8 inches in height, and of exquisitely artistic workmanship. It represented a monster of vaguely anthropoid outline, but with an octopus-like head whose face was a mass of feelers. A scaly, rubbery-looking body. How does it look rubbery? Because when I think of the word rubbery, I think in terms of like the texture of something. Something has a texture of rubbery. How does that get conveyed through a through a piece of pottery? Unless it means melty, like the body was half melted. So maybe that's how it works. I don't really know, but we shall continue, shall we? Rubbery-looking body. Prodigious, prodigious, prodigious claws on hind and forefeet, and long, narrow wings behind. This thing, which seemed instinct with a fearsome and unnatural malignancy. Wow, I'm not doing very well with this sentence. This thing, which seemed instinct with a fearsome and unnatural malignancy, was of a somewhat bloated corpulence, and squatted evilly on a rectangular block or pedestal covered with undecipherable characters. See, bloated corpulence. So I'm assuming the rubbery thing implies that it looked melted rubbery, like that. The tips of the wings touched the back edge of the block. The seat occupied the center, whilst the long, curved claws of the doubled-up, crouching hind legs gripped the front edge and extended a quarter of the way down towards the bottom of the pedestal. Sorry, it's just toward the bottom of the pedestal. Toward the bottom of the pedestal. The cephalopod head was bent forward, so that the ends of the facial feelers brushed the backs of huge forepaws. Ew, that's a nasty word. Forepaws, which clasped the croucher's elevated knees. The aspect of the whole was abnormally lifelike, and the more subtly fearful because its source was so totally unknown. Its vast, awesome, and incalculable age was unmistakable, yet not one link did it shew with any known type of art belonging to civilization's youth, or indeed to any other time. Totally separate and apart, its very material... let's try that again. Totally separate and apart, its very material was a mystery, for the soapy greenish-black stone with its golden or iridescent flecks and striations... I don't know what that word is. Striation. S-T-R-I-A-T-I-O-N-S. Striations. Striations. Let's go with striations, because that flowed quite well. Striations resembled nothing familiar to geology or mineralogy. Oh boy. M-I-N-E-R-A-L. Mineral. Ogy. O-G-Y. Mineralogy. Oh, wait, yeah, mineralogy. Yeah, that makes sense. The characters along the base... Where was I? The characters along the base were equally baffling, and no member present, despite a representation of... The characters along the base were equally baffling, and no member present, despite a representation of half the world's experts learning in this field... Damn it. The characters along the base were equally baffling, and no member present, despite a representation of half the world's expert learning in this field, could form the least notion of even their remotest linguistic kinship. They, like the subject and material, belonged to something horribly remote and distinct from mankind as we know it, something frightfully suggestive of old and unhallowed cycles of life in which our world and our conceptions have no part. And yet, as the members severally shook their heads and confessed defeat at the inspector's problem, there was one man in that gathering who suspected a touch of bizarre familiarity in the monstrous shape and writing, and who presently told with some diffidence of the odd trifle he knew. This person was the late William Channing Webb, professor of anthropology in Princeton University, and an explorer of no slight note. Professor Webb had been engaged 48 years before in a tour of Greenland and Iceland in search of some runic inscriptions which he failed to unearth, and, whilst high up on the West Greenland coast, had encountered a singular tribe or cult of degenerate Eskimos whose Eskimos in Greenland. Let's just keep going. A singular tribe or cult of degenerate Eskimos whose religion, a curious form of devil-worshipping Eskimos in Greenland. Well, he has spelled Eskimos as Esquimos. Esquimos? Maybe I'm just mixing it up with actual Eskimos. Esquimos. Esquimos? Let's try from the beginning again. Sorry. And whilst high up on the Greenland coast, had encountered a singular tribe or a cult of degenerate Eskimos, whose religion, a curious form of devil worship, showed him with its deliberate bloodthirstiness and repulsiveness. It was a faith of which other Eskimos knew little, and which they mentioned only with shudders, saying that it had come down from horribly ancient aeons, before ever the world was made. Besides nameless rites and human sacrifices, there were certain queer hereditary rituals addressed to a supreme elder devil, or Tomasuk. Sorry, it's a foreign word. He's italicized it to make it look like oh yes, this is devil words, foreign devil talk. Tomasuk. And of this, Professor Webb had taken a careful phonetic copy from an aged Angakok, or wizard priest, expressing the sounds in Roman letters as best he knew how. But just now of prime significance was the fetish which this cult had cherished, and around which they danced when the aurora leaped high over the ice cliffs. It was, the professor stated, a very crude bas-relief of stone, comprising a hideous picture and some cryptic writing. And so far as he could tell, it was a rough parallel in all essential features of the bestial thing now lying before the meeting. This data, received with suspense and astonishment by the assembled members, proved doubly exciting to Inspector Legrasse, and he began at once to ply his informant with questions. Having noted and copied an oral ritual among the swamp of cult worshippers his men had arrested, he besought the professor to remember as best he might the symbols taken down among the Diabolist Eskimos. The Diabolist Eskimos. Let's try that entire sentence again, shall we? Having noted and copied an oral ritual among the swamp cult worshippers his men had arrested, he besought the professor to remember as best he might the syllables taken down amongst the Diabolist Eskimos. There then followed an exhaustive comparison of details and a moment of really odd silence, when both detective and scientist agreed on the virtual identity of the phrase common to two hellish rituals so many worlds of distance apart. What, in substance, both the Eskimo wizards and the Louisiana swamp priests had chanted to their kindred idols was something very like this, the word divisions being guessed at from traditional breaks in the phrase as chanted aloud. And here we go, chanting, Fununglui Muglubud Lavand Cthulhu Railiath Unganangle Fatagda. Legrasse had one point in advance of Professor Webb, for several among his mongrel prisoners had repeated to him what Legrasse had one point in advance of Professor Webb, for several among his mongrel prisoners had repeated to him what older celebrants had told them the words meant. This text, as given, ran something like this. In his house at Rylieth, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. And that seems to be a good place to stop. Yes, all the spooky stuff, yes. Wow. So that was day 99 of the 100 Days of Narration Challenge. I am in Los Angeles. This is really crazy. I can't believe that I'm here, and I can't believe I'm so freaking lost. At least I got my hotel room, but I don't know where to go. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, dear God, why did I come here? I don't know what I'm doing in this place. I don't even have a car. I should have rented a car and drove on the wrong side of the road and be totally scared of driving for the rest of my life. I am already scared of driving for the rest of my life. Whatever. Anyway, So, I will hope to see you all for day 100 tomorrow, and I hope I can actually upload this in time for day 99, much less day 100 tomorrow. Okay. All right. See y'all then.
Hey, you seem like a cool, wonderful, and/or awesome individual with impeccable taste in voice actors. So why not follow me on Facebook or Twitter? You can keep up with the latest projects I'm in, or that my friends are in, or that you could be in, because I occasionally post links to open editions to various projects that require voice acting out there, or that nobody's in, but they're interesting projects nonetheless that you may also find interesting. Also, lots of random thoughts about whatever's on my mind at that particular moment. Usually it's about food or video games, or foodie video games. Anyway, you can follow me on Facebook at OmadonVA or Twitter at Omadon. Hope to see you there.